Have you ever walked past someone in need and thought someone else will help? Or maybe you've been the one in trouble, hoping that just one person would care enough to stop. Today we're diving into one of the most powerful and timeless stories from the Bible, the Good Samaritan, a lesson about kindness, compassion, and what it really means to love your neighbor. One day, Jesus was teaching, surrounded by people eager to learn. A religious expert, a man well-versed in the laws of God, stood up to test Jesus. He asked, "Teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life?" Jesus, knowing the man already had the answer, responded with a question of his own. "What is written in the law? How do you read it?" The expert confidently replied, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself." Jesus smiled. "You have answered correctly," he said. "Do this and you will live." But the man wasn't satisfied. He wanted to justify himself, so he asked another question. "And who is my neighbor?" And with that, Jesus began a story that would change the way people saw kindness forever. Picture this. A man was traveling from Jerusalem to Jericho, a dangerous road known for robbers and ambushes. As he made his way down the dusty path, suddenly, a group of bandits jumped out. They attacked him, beat him up, stripped him of his clothes, and left him lying on the ground, half dead. Then they disappeared into the wilderness, leaving him alone under the scorching sun. The man was helpless, wounded, barely conscious. Would anyone stop to help him? As time passed, footsteps echoed in the distance. A priest was coming down the road. Surely he would stop and help. But as he got closer and saw the injured man, he hesitated. Maybe he didn't want to get involved. Maybe he was afraid. Maybe he was too busy. Whatever the reason, he crossed to the other side of the road and kept walking. Soon after, a Levite, another religious man, came down the same road. He saw the man lying there. He slowed down, maybe even thought about helping. But then, he too walked away. Two men, both religious, both respected, but neither willing to stop. Then someone else came along, a Samaritan. Now in those days, Jews and Samaritans didn't get along. They were enemies. No one would have expected a Samaritan to stop. But as he approached and saw the man lying on the ground, his heart was filled with compassion. Without hesitation, he knelt down, gently cleaned the man's wounds with oil and wine, and wrapped them in bandages. Then he lifted the man onto his own donkey and walked beside him until they reached an inn. The Samaritan cared for him through the night. The next morning, before leaving, he gave the innkeeper 2 silver coins, enough to cover several days of care, and said, "Take care of him. If his expenses go beyond this, I'll pay you when I return." As Jesus finished the story, he turned to the religious expert and asked, "Which of the three was a neighbor to the man who was attacked?" The expert had no choice but to answer, "The one who showed him mercy." Jesus smiled and said, "Go and do the same." So what does this ancient story mean for us today? The Good Samaritan teaches us that being a good neighbor isn't about proximity, race, or status. It's about compassion. It's about seeing someone in need and choosing to help, even when it's inconvenient, even when no one else is watching. We live in a world where it's easy to walk past people in need. But imagine if we all stopped to show kindness, to lift someone up, to be the person who actually cares. So here's the challenge for you today. Who can you help? Who around you might need a word of encouragement, a helping hand, or even just a smile? Because at the end of the day, being a good Samaritan isn't about one big act. It's about small moments of kindness that can change someone's life. If this story inspired you, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful Bible stories and life-changing lessons. And remember, kindness isn't just an idea, it's an action. Audience of one.